I asked a few CRNAs and SRNAs to give me their advice on things that they wish they knew before starting clinical and ways that they dealt with difficult situations. Here's what they had to say.
As far as advice goes, as an incoming SRNA, I would say don't forget why you started on this path in the first place. As school goes on and you've been out of the hospital for a little bit, it can really grind you down when you get lost in the minutia of microbiology and immunology. It can make you forget why you wanted to become a CRNA because you're so far removed from anesthesia and patient care. But just every once in a while, remind yourself why you're doing this and just always keep it in the back of your head. And just keep a reminder of the things that made you excited about going into anesthesia in the first place.
It's an individual sport, so you can't compare how other people do with how you're doing. I think the most important part, you get lost in the schooling of it because a lot of it is coming from a competitive background. You were all trying to get into school. You all have the exact same grade point average. You all have the same experience. And then you're all type A to begin with. A lot of it has to do with how strong you are internally. And what I mean by that is when you do have a bad day, you don't doubt yourself, you don't quit, you persevere, you keep moving, and you learn from your mistakes. And you have to be, strong, a strong individual, have faith in yourself, grow your confidence. I'm scared every day, so fear is normal. I walk in every day, I'm 95% me, 5% fear, because I don't know how the day's gonna go. I don't know that if everything I do or know to do is gonna be everything that's needed. It's just, it's doing the best you can all the time and staying on top of things. It's being focused.
So some advice would be something that I would think about during clinicals that helped me quite a bit, especially in OB or cardiac where you have to do something that requires a lot of skills, is to don't let anybody rush you, especially in OB. If you're putting in an epidural and you have a laboring patient who's screaming in agony, you're not going to do yourself any favors if you try to rush through it. At least for me, when I first started, I was shaking a lot, trying to do something like that. But then I just kind of learned to zone everything out, and my hands smooth out significantly. So one big pearl of wisdom there is to don't let anybody rush you. I mean, sometimes there's emergencies, but in general, try to get in your own zone and don't let people rush you to things like that.
First of all, I think the best thing to do is have fun. The program's going to be stressful at times, but I think the whole thing for the student to remember is make this fun. You should love coming to clinical, you should love coming to class, you should love learning.
My biggest piece of advice is in the beginning you're going to end up working with a lot of anesthesia providers, whether CRNAs or anesthesiologists, and as much as it's challenging to kind of learn everyone's ways, like one day you'll do things a particular way or set things up a particular way, and then the next day you do the exact same thing but it's with a different person, and they're going to tell you, what are you doing, this is not how you should do it, you should set it up this way. And as challenging as it is, take a little bit of what you like from everyone, because I had 25 preceptors in the beginning, and yes, it was hard to kind of get used to everyone's ways, but at the end now I can tell you every little way I set up or provide anesthesia, I can tell you exactly who I learned it from. So that would be one of my major pieces of advice, is just take what you like, don't take what you don't like, but try to get as much as you can from every person that you are working with.
What I wish I knew before going to anesthesia school was not to let people rush you. So especially on inductions and things like that, it's okay to take it slow and make people slow down for you. Other things is that it's okay to be assertive without being rude. It's always good to be kind to people, and fake it till you make it. So even if you're not really confident in something, just fake it, and people kind of just let it go, and eventually you will be confident in it.
So I think my advice for incoming SRNAs is that life happens. It doesn't stop while you're in school. There's no pause button. Things are going to happen. Some good things, some bad things, and you kind of just have to roll with it. You have to just break it down into small, manageable pieces and get it done that way. My car died and I had to take it into the dealership, and I didn't have time for that. I didn't plan on that. I had homework to do. But you just have to kind of deal with it and prioritize your time again. You have to constantly assess and reassess your to-do list and reprioritize things and get it done just however you can. It's not easy, we all know that, but we'll make it by one way or another.
My advice would be to talk to your friends and family well in advance and let them know the rigorous routine that you're going to be going through. Make sure that you prepare them appropriately, that you're not maybe going to make every single family function. They should plan on dropping off food at your door and helping you as best as they can.
I think one of the biggest struggles that I had last summer was just trying to find a balance between school, clinical, and maintaining relationships with my friends and family. I think the hardest part was having to say no to certain events, whereas before, you know, as an ICU nurse, you were working every other weekend or every third weekend. And another thing too, it was the second summer in a row that you had to say no to events, and that was a struggle. But you will get through it. It stinks, but we just all have to remember it's just temporary, and we are doing this to better our future and to one day be CRNAs.
Starting clinical, I would say, was one of the harder summers. Advice would be just to take everything with a grain of salt and remember that there's a lot of provider preference. So not necessarily one right way to do things in anesthesia. Take what you like from others and filter what works for you, and try not to take any criticism personal because everyone's just trying to help you out.
That it's really hard being back at the bottom again because we're used to being the best from our ICU units. So in the beginning, you're learning, and there's a steep learning curve, but you're getting a lot of criticism as you're learning, and it's easier said than done, but you can't take it personally. Every day, you learn something, so that's your goal. What did I learn today? And you just keep moving forward.
How I learned to deal with it was by being well prepared, doing the best I can with what I know, what to do, how to do it. You know, a lot of this is, you know, people don't understand because they're not in their shoes. They're not in that environment. They're not in that moment. And don't ever forget that because it's very true. I talk to myself a lot on the way home. You know, I turn the radio off and I talk through every single scenario. You know, I find what I did right and I build upon it. I learn what I could have done, should have done, and I grow from that. I never beat myself up because, believe it or not, the next day you got to go take care of a patient all over again. Or even that day, you take care of the next patient. You know, it's not something where you just, you know, you don't go home. You know, you don't quit. And that's how you become good. You know, you don't give up, you don't beat yourself up. And some days are better than others, and sometimes you just get knocked down beyond belief, but you get up. Some days you stumble, but you keep your pace. So that's how I do it.
By definitely radiating positive vibes to your team, to the environment, treating everyone as a team member, you know, including your circulator, your scrub tech, surgeons, residents, if you're with students. I mean, everyone, I think it's a good day when everyone works together as a team, whether it's a laid back case or a stressful case. The other thing is, if it seems like, you know, you're having a stressful moment, just kind of take a step back, take a nice big deep breath so that you're not rushing, because these are people's, you know, family members and you don't want to make a mistake. And then just radiating positive vibes to whatever the case may be, and radiating positive vibes to the entire team. I think that goes a long way, and just, I don't know, put a smile on your face.
How do I deal with stress in the operating room? So I've always had this like little philosophy that I've kind of lived by. So I figure if you work a 12-hour shift, that's 720 minutes out of your day. If something bad happens during the day that, it's easy to get stressed out about, if you think of like, say it was 5 minutes out of your day that was bad or stressful, it's literally like a fraction of a percent of your day. But those are the things that it's easy to get hung up on, and over time, I think that wears people down and it causes a lot of job dissatisfaction. So I just try to look at the bigger picture of it. If something happens that's just a small percent of my day, unless it's something that I need to address, I just try to put it out of my mind, because the majority of your day is still pretty good. So that's just something that I try to live by, and it seems to work. And then the other thing that I do is for my own self, when I leave work every day, I go rock climbing. And that has really balanced my life out. I just find it to be very mentally engaging, and then physically it's fun to do. So, I mean, when you're in school, it can be easy to forget to take care of yourself. And that's something that not only like for my mind, it's a good thing, but also just physically, it's a good thing. So when I'm done, I feel really good, and my mind is like totally clean. So that's just my own little outlet for dealing with stress. But I think as long as you can take care of yourself, even if to deal with all these other things, at least you're doing good by yourself, and I think that's an important.
Just try and take a step back, try and see the big picture, make sure the patient safety is first, remember why we're here. Charting and cleaning up the room can happen after, but just make sure that you and the patient are safe, and kind of go from your ABCs, what needs to take priority and what can wait for later.
Handling stressful situations is stressful. You need to be able to step back and reassess what's going on in the situation, and not just fire at will. You need to be able to focus on the problem at hand and attempt to rectify that situation. There are many different personalities in anesthesia and in medicine in general that you'll come across, and some will be personalities are easy to deal with, some are not. But it's your ability to react to the situation. Be proactive, not reactive.
So for me, the most stressful part of school for nurse anesthesia was starting off in the clinical rotation, because at the end of the summer, we were trying to get to a place where we were proficient enough to be going off on our own. And that's when things started to get really stressful for me, because I felt like I was not succeeding. And that was for like multiple days in a row. So eventually, somebody will say something and it'll click, and you'll be able to get to where you want to be. But it takes time, and you do feel, after being a very good nurse, you feel like a big failure, really, as a student. And it's temporary, but it doesn't feel that way at the time. And you get through it. And so it's good for me, it was good to have just different preceptors, and family support, and you try to make the best of your downtime.
So there's an analogy of becoming like a duck and letting things just roll off your back. Everybody screws up, between something minor, major, but the biggest thing is how you react to it. For me, I'm really good at just, turning it all off, and just kind of shrugging it off, learning from it, shrugging it off. Don't let it ruin your whole day or week. I know a lot of people, especially in my class, they would do something, make a little mistake, and it would affect them the rest of the week, and their whole week would be off. And they would just continue to make these stupid little mistakes just because they're so in their own head about it. So biggest thing is to move past little errors like that, learn from it, and don't let it ruin the rest of your day.
It's worth it. It's very much worth it. Once you get through the didactic and into the clinical, you start to apply what it is that you learn. Some of it starts to make sense. Some of it starts to gel. You start to develop a sixth sense. You're going to get the good and the bad, and you're going to learn from what not to do as much as you are going to learn what to do. And at the end of it all, it's going to be you and all you picking the way that you want to do it from what you learn, good, bad, or indifferent. But it's worth it.
Yes, it's worth it. I love giving anesthesia to patients. We have a great cohort of nurse anesthetists all over the country. We're very well supported. We have a great national organization, the ANA, so it's worth it.
I would say it's definitely worth it. It was a long 3 years. People have all sorts of things that they are tackling besides just homework. A lot of births, a lot of deaths for those 3 years. That life still happens, long distance relationships, but you just focus on the fact that it has an expiration date and life is so great now, so different. New house, new job, baby on the way, in a career that's very flexible for anything you want to do. So definitely would recommend it.
And why it's all worth it. I used to hate going to work, and now I'd say that I absolutely love going to work. I don't mind waking up early anymore, even though you'd think you would, and it's a pretty sweet job. It's a lot of fun. You learn something new every day, and you feel respected in your job. And the money's not too bad, too.
It is a huge pain in the ass, but it is worth it.
It's totally worth it. It's going to be a challenging journey, and I think one of my other pieces of advice is to be patient with yourself, be patient with the process, baby steps, check off every little box that you have to, in terms of assignments or in terms of little milestones, intubated, place an epidural, place the spinal, did your cardiac rotation, did your pediatric rotation, but it's totally worth it, and you get to work a little bit of everywhere and learn so much in such a short amount of time, so totally worth it. Hang in there, and I totally love this job, so hopefully you will too.
It's definitely worth it. The program may seem very stressful at times, and the end of the program may seem so far away, but as you go through the program, you'll develop friendships, you'll learn so much, and one day you'll look back and go, this was the best thing that I've ever done. So it is definitely worth it.
So when you start CRNA school, you give up time with your family, give up time with your friends, you miss special occasions, you're stressed out from exams and care plans and preceptors and having to be up really early in the morning and studying until late and just giving up a lot of yourself to bettering your career. So is it worth it? It is absolutely worth it. It is the best job, and I wouldn't have changed a thing.
I remember being told that CRNA school is really stressful. And I remember thinking, I come from a really hard ICU. I know how to handle stress. I can get through anything. But as someone that is going through this process, I can tell you that you're going to struggle. You're going to have days where you question, what is this all for? You'll be put with someone who tries to break you down and challenge your intelligence and your skills. You'll start questioning your own abilities and wondering, am I going to make it through this program because I didn't get that grade that I thought I wanted on that last exam? But you're going to make it through because it doesn't come down to this one grade or that one intubation or that one spinal. Because the next day, you're going to be put with someone who builds you up and teaches you a new skill. Because it's an ongoing roller coaster, and it's going to be worth it.
It's worth it.
I would say it's definitely worth it.
It's definitely worth it.
It is worth it.
Yes, it's worth it.
Oh, it's totally worth it.
It is absolutely worth it. It is the best job, and I wouldn't have changed a thing.
Wouldn't have changed a thing. It was the right thing, and I'm sure it's going to be the right thing for you, but you have to be patient, and you have to persevere.